Hi everyone, welcome back to Spring into Math 7. I'm Mrs. Campbell. Today we're going to be talking about calculating unit rates. So let's get started. All right, let's take a look at the definition of unit rates. Unit rates are very useful and helpful. Having the denominator of 1 makes it easy to find equivalent rates. It also helps us to compare rates. I want you to stop and think for a minute. What are some examples of unit rates that you see in the real world? Do you see them at the grocery store? Well, sure you do. Unit rates can help us get the best value for our money. How many pounds per dollar? Or ounces per dollar. And how about cars? Do you see that in cars? Of course we do. Unit rates help us find the best value in gas mileage. Have you ever heard someone say, oh, it has great miles per gallon? That is another really good example of a unit rate in the real world. So if we're given a unit rate, finding the unit rate can give us a starting value when we're comparing two things. And let's take a look at an example. Karen ran 4 miles in 20 minutes. Is this a ratio, a rate, or a unit rate? Use the best description, and if it's not a unit rate, you need to find the unit rate. So let's write what we know. What we know is that in 20 minutes, she ran 4 miles. Okay, we know this is a rate because we're comparing two different things, minutes and miles. But the denominator is not 1, so it's not a unit rate, and we need to find that unit rate. So let's take a look at how we would do that. If we have 20 minutes over 4 miles, remember, when we're looking for the unit rate, we need to have a denominator of 1. Now, how do we get from 4 to 1? And I've written out the explanation here in blue. Basically, all I've done here is I have simplified using the GCF, or the greatest common factor, of the numerator 20 and the denominator 4. The greatest common factor is 4, so we divide both by 4 to simplify. And now we have our unit rate because the denominator is 1. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. Switch to blue. And 20 divided by 4 is 5. So it takes her 5 minutes to run 1 mile. She's quick. Let's take a look at another example. Jeff bought 3/4 of a pound of candy for $1.80. What is the unit price per pound? Okay, remember, unit price means how much money for 1 pound, ounce, etc. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to set up the rate with the pounds in the denominator. X will be the price for 1 pound of candy. Because we know, and let's take a look at how I've written it out here, that 3/4 of a pound costs $1.80. So what I don't know where my variable X is in the numerator over 1 pound, because I'm trying to find my unit rate or unit price. Okay, the first thing I did is I simply converted the fraction 3/4 to the decimal 0.75 just to be simpler to work with. We always want to do that. The next step would be to cross multiply. So I do $1.80 times 1 equals 0.75 times X. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 0.75, and X equals 2.4. So now I know that 1 pound of candy costs $2.40. All right, let's do one more example. If Tide sells 80 ounces of laundry soap for $11.99, and Seventh Generation sells 64 ounces for $8.99, which is a better value for the money? So the note I have here says, in order to compare them equally, we're going to find the unit cost for each one, and then we'll compare them based on the price per ounce. So which one is a better deal? Let's take a look at Tide first. The first thing we're going to do is set up $11.99. That's how much it costs for 80 ounces. We want to know how much it costs per ounce, so for 1 ounce. So I'll put X there as my variable. Cross multiply. $11.99 times 1 equals 80x. Then I'll divide both sides by 80. And for Tide, I have X equals 0.149875. And we'll just kind of set that aside for a minute while we do the Seventh Generation. Find out what the unit price is for that one. We have $8.99 for 64 ounces. What is the cost for 1 ounce? I'm going to cross multiply. $8.99 times 1 equals 64x. Divide both sides by 64, and I get x equals 0.140046875. So obviously we're going to want to round that to identify how much each one is per ounce. So after we round, we identify the fact that Tide costs 15 cents per ounce, and 7th generation costs 14 cents per ounce. So actually 7th generation is a little bit better of a deal. All right, everyone, that wraps it up for today's lesson. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.